Welcome to 100 Yards of Football. Today we got our NFC West team preview. We're going to preview the San Francisco 49ers. If you like the video today, please come in and share it. I'm your host, Vincent Turner. Today, joining me is a very talented gentleman. I call him the legend out of Delray Beach, Florida. He played 12 years in the National Football League with the Atlanta Falcons. He was a first-round pick in the 1981 draft, 25th selection overall. And he was a two-time All-American at Florida State University. The very talented Mr. Bobby Butler. So if you like the video today, please come in and share it as me and Mr. Butler are going to break down the San Francisco 49ers. So, Mr. Butler, what do you like about the team out there in the Bay, the San Francisco 49ers? Matter of fact, you should know all about them because when you played, y'all had some serious matchups. So tell us about the San Francisco 49ers.
Well, I tell you, they fixed almost every problem in the last few years. You know, they brought in a great coach, Kyle Shanahan, who's doing an excellent job, who really could have almost been coach of the year last year with how he turned them around in 1 year, right? But, you know, they were 13-3 last year, of course, lost to Kansas City Chiefs in the Super Bowl, all right? Now, here's the thing. Here's going to be the coaching responsibility for Coach Shanahan and everybody in the organization. It is always a tendency for the team who lost in the Super Bowl not to get back to that same level of play, Vincent. And so they're going to have to make sure that don't creep into them, that they got to understand that, look, we were that close and winning. We were a few points. We were 1 quarter short of not finishing the deal. And so, but for them to get back to that level, Vincent, Jimmy Garoppolo has got to step his game up to another level. I mean, he's there. He's a good quarterback, but now they need him to become a superstar quarterback. They need him to win games in the last 2 minutes of the game, take him down if he got to win the game, like the great Joe Montana did in my era, right? So he's got to step up his game to get back. Also, you know, they're sound. I mean, from an offensive standpoint, you know, Raheem Mostert, nobody could predict that he would have the year he had last year. But he did, right? And so he had an awesome year last year. And then you add with him Tevin Coleman in the backfield, former Atlanta Falcon. That guy, those two guys right there, that's a great two-headed monster to have running the football. And then the wide receiver room, oh my goodness. This wide receiver room, see, Jimmy Garoppolo should be a lot better with the talent in this receiver room. We know what Deebo Samuel brought to the table last year. He's the number one guy in that room, Vincent. He's the number one receiver in the room. And then you had Kendrick Bourne. You know, he'll be the third wheel this year because they got a superstar from Arizona State coming in there by the name of Brandon Ayuk. And boy, is he a big-time playmaker. Vincent, he going to absolutely make things happen in the Bay Area this coming football season. He's a big guy. He's got punt return, kickoff return ability. He's a yak monster. And so they got a great wide receiver room. And here's the thing. When you talk about the receiver room, they got the greatest tight end in the game in George Kittle. He's the best tight end in the game. Why is he the best tight end in the game? He's the best pass receiver in the tight end group, in my opinion. And he's also the best blocker out of the tight ends in the National Football League. So you got him, you got the receiver room, you got great running backs, you got a quarterback who need to go to the next level now. And then you got a good offensive line coming back. They re-signed guys they need to re-sign. They got them all in. They have good chemistry on that offensive line. They should go to the next level. But it's all going to boil down to one person, Vincent, Jimmy Garoppolo. That's what it's going to all come down to, Jimmy Garoppolo. But on the defensive side of the ball, hey, man, I start smiling when I think about this defense. Because, boy, I know defensive coordinator Robert Saleh, he can't even sleep at night thinking about getting back to work with these guys. But can I say it, Vincent? Can I just say it? Can I call who the MVP of the National Football defensive MVP going to be next year? Can I call it out if we have a season?
Yes, sir.
Nick Bosa. Hey, man, let me tell you something. This young man here is a phenomenal player. I mean, he's absolutely playing on a different level. He's playing on a different dial, Vincent. His motor is incredible. He makes things happen. And not only that, you got him on the edge, but also they just signed, they gave him a new 5-year deal, Eric Armstead. They brought him back, which is a great thing. He's a right D end, and you got Nick Bosa on the left. Bruh, they're wreaking havoc on the edge. And then you add the first round pick, Javon Kinlaw from South Carolina. Oh my goodness. Vincent, we're going to have a name for this defense up front. I don't know what we're going to name them, but we're going to have to find a name. The Purple People Eater is already gone. The Fearsome Foursome is already gone. Even the no-name defense is already gone, Miami. We're going to have to find a name for this group. Javon Kinlaw, Solomon Thomas at right D tackle. Bruh, their linebackers, Quan Alexander, Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw. Listen. And you add D4 to that D line, bruh, you got a front seven that's right up there to the top. And then you look at the secondary, Vincent. They went from the worst to the first in pass coverage, right? Led by veteran, one of the most highly intelligent corners in the league. He's playing corner, but he's like a safety on the field with his intelligence, with his football IQ, and that is no other than Richard Sherman. He is still productive, but we got Akello Witherspoon, who's a good corner, Jaquisi Tart, excuse me, and Mr. Jimmy Ward playing in the middle of the field. Hey, man, this is a great defense. This is a great defense. And so, but here's the reason why they got so good last year. They turned it around, Vincent, for one reason and one reason only. Excuse me. See, I always talk about when you build a defense or offense, where do you start? Up front. They have invested so much money in their front seven. Now, it don't matter as long as we got heat in the kitchen. It don't matter who we got in the den. But when you got names like Richard Sherman, these guys in the secondary, along with the heat in the kitchen, now we're talking about one of the best defenses in the National Football League. And I look for them to wreak havoc next year. All right? Look for them to step up their game next year. And so it's going to all, for me, Vincent, depend on one person. Because we got the defensive side of the ball. We got everything on the offense. But it's going to all depend on Mr. Jimmy Garoppolo. How well he plays in 2020 if they can get back to the level of play. Now, here's the thing you always run into. Once you've been to the mountaintop, everybody got your name on the board. Everybody talking about in that division. And I know the Seahawks are talking because the Seahawks could have won that division last year. Bruh, it's not going to be easy for them like it was last year. And so they better get ready to play. They got everything in place, but Jimmy got to step up his game for them to continue or either go back to the big game or either to finish the show. So that's what I want to say to them. I think my final analysis, I think they'll be about 11-5, somewhere in there, right? And so they're going to be a contender, and I still think it's going to be out of them in Seattle in that division.
You brought up great points about the 49ers. To me, it's very simple, and I'll keep it short. 5 years ago when Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch took over the new GM, I questioned not Kyle Shanahan, I questioned John Lynch because he'd never been in the position. He was a former player. Mm-hmm. But what I didn't really understand, he was a guy that came from a very good organization and played under a good coach in Tony Dungy. And the most important part, he was a defensive guy. Mm-hmm. And what they did, you brought up the excellent point, Brother Butler. They built on the defensive line. Mm-hmm. And when you built on the line of scrimmage, everything else comes into place, to me personally.
That's right.
I'm going to start with their defense. Last year, what more can you say? 48 sacks, 27 turnovers. And you're right, Brother Butler, because that's why I'm glad that I'm doing the show with you. You played 12 years in the league. You see talent. To me, at the Super Bowl last year, watching that game, the young man, I don't care if people get upset out there, the young man from the Ohio State Buckeyes, Nick Bosa, was the best player on the field. And in the playoffs, he might have been the best player on the field for the 49ers. To me, he brought everything together from a defensive standpoint for that football team. Without him last year, because think about this, they had Eric Armstead, they had Solomon Thomas, they had Dee Ford, they had Fred Warner, but he was the magical piece. And every time I looked up in every play, he was bringing it and could not be blocked. And it trickled over on the offensive side. And man, this is a very, very talented young football team that's built on the line of scrimmage. So that being said, I think the 49ers are going to be just as good as they were last year on defense, because even though they let DeForest Buckner walk, they got the young man out of South Carolina, Javon Kinlaw. And if you want to know about Javon Kinlaw, pick up your cell phones and call Kirby Smart right now and ask him how good is Javon Kinlaw. Pick up your cell phones right now and call down to the Senior Bowl and ask them about the first two practices down there. And they will tell you Javon Kinlaw was the best player. I'm just keeping it serious. Call over at the University of Georgia and ask Kirby Smart how good Javon Kinlaw is. And you replacing him, putting him on the defensive line with Nick Bosa? Man, it's very special. Brother Butler, I'm upset at you for one thing. You brought out all their great defensive players, but you didn't bring up that underrated, undrafted free agent out of the University of Arkansas. Can I say Pig Suey, Dre Greenlaw, one of the most underrated players in the league. I got to give him some love today. Same school, Fayetteville, Arkansas, up there in the northwest corner of the state of Arkansas. Now over on the offensive side, they lose Joe Staley. But I'm going to tell you this. The running game is still going to be lethal. Even though the young man, what's his name, Brother Butler, who had over 200-some yards rushing in the playoffs against Green Bay. What's that young man's name? Raheem?
His name is Raheem Mostert.
Right. Okay, right now they're saying he's kind of upset over his money. That's all right. Tevin Coleman is waiting in the wings. That's right. But I like what they've done in the draft and what they did in the offseason at the receiving core position. George Little, I agree with you, Brother Butler is the best tight end in the game. But I like their receiving room. Deebo Samuels is explosive. Yes. I'm going to call him Mr. A, B-A. I'm not even pronouncing his name. The young man out of Arizona State. Tell you how explosive he was last year for Herm Edwards over there at Arizona State. The guy averaged almost 12 yards after the catch. He led the country. But a gentleman, and I want you to remember this name on our video day, Jawan Jennings out of the University of Tennessee. Had some problems over there in his 5 years at Tennessee. But when he came out of high school, he was voted Mr. Football and Basketball. 6'3", about 215 pounds, 40-inch vertical, a tremendous football player. He went in the 7th round because of issues. But he's a guy I think is going to really surprise a lot of people. And it got another former University of Tennessee player. He ended up transferring his last year to Baylor, and Jalen Hurt, who's a super player in these years at Tennessee. They are going to be very good offensively. And the one key piece, offensively, they added Trent Williams, who hasn't played football in a long time. And throughout the league, the young man out of Oklahoma, when he was at Washington, there was no question about it. He was the best left tackle in the game. That being said, I got to agree with my great friend, the 12-year vet, the 2-time All-American out of Florida State, Bobby Butler. It's all about, when you look at this football team that returns 18 out of 22 starters, the table is set. It's got to be about that pretty boy out of Eastern Illinois, Jimmy Garoppolo. He played very good football all the way up to the playoffs. Kind of was inconsistent. And I think about this, Brother Butler. Suppose he would have made that throw in the fourth quarter where he would have hit Emmanuel Sanders, on that deep route. How would that change the football game? If he would have hit Mr. Sanders on that route for a touchdown, San Francisco probably wins that football game. Patrick Mahomes might have got his money, might not. We wouldn't even talk about Jimmy Garoppolo. We'd probably talk about Jimmy Garoppolo getting more money. But at the end of the day, I agree with you, Bobby Butler. He's the guy that's got to take Frisco back to the promised land. And when I look at it, he's only had 26 career starts. He's still relatively young, but he's going to have all the pieces around him to make it happen. And one other point, remember Kyle Shanahan, in his years before he became head coach, when he was in Atlanta, Matt Ryan, look what he did in his second year. 4,900 yards, I believe 38 touchdowns, MVP. When Kyle Shanahan was the offensive coordinator with the Houston Texans, Matt Schaub in his second year in this system, 4,700 yards. Excuse me, Matt Ryan and Kyle Shanahan's second year in this system had 4,900 yards, 38 touchdowns. Matt Schaub's second year in Kyle Shanahan's offensive system, 47 yards passing. This is Jimmy Garoppolo's second year under Kyle Shanahan. And I think he's going to take it to the next level. And that being said, when you look at San Francisco, you got history. Montana, Craig, the young man out of Mississippi Valley, Jerry Rice, Charles Haley, Bill Walsh. We might be looking at the second coming of the second dynasty over in the NFC, the San Francisco 49ers. So if you like the video today, please comment and share. We are 100 Yards Football. And thank you for watching the video today. And remember this, the fans out there, we should appreciate y'all and what y'all done for us over the last 5-6 months. If you want to do anything special, please do this. Happy birthday to me. Happy birthday to me. I'll be 60 years old on July 17th. Y'all have a blessed day.